All right. Ready to dive into a career that, well, it's anything but ordinary. We've got a resume, a video transcript from this public access TV show called One World, and it's from like 1990.
Wow.
Yeah. And we've also got some podcast introductions.
Okay.
And get this, the podcast is called One World in a New World.
Hmm.
Definitely seems like some kind of connection there, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing. On the surface, we've got aerospace manufacturing, event planning, business coaching. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
So our mission today, if you choose to accept it, is to uncover the thread that ties it all together. So what do you think? Just random career moves or a carefully crafted journey with a deeper purpose?
Well, let's take a look. I think the resume is the first clue, right?
Okay.
And it's not just, some boring list of achievements. It's like a masterclass in how to use action verbs to really emphasize the impact this person had.
Okay, give me an example.
Like, look at this. Supervised, spearheaded, slashed, pioneered.
Oh.
This isn't someone who just sits in a role. They're out there. They're actively shaping things, outcomes, wherever they go.
Yeah, it's true. Those verbs, I mean, they practically jump off the page,
Yeah.
And the objective statement is interesting. It says, empower excellence in business and education.
Interesting.
Now, I've seen a lot of resumes, and that combo, it's unusual.
Yeah, you don't see those two things put together too often.
It's like they see this connection between those two worlds that most people, I don't know, they just don't see it.
Exactly. And it's more than just like, some empty aspiration.
Right?
Take a look at the accomplishments that are listed. Increasing client receipts by 150%, that's business savvy. Slashing delinquent shipments by 20%.
Right.
That's operational efficiency.
Uh-huh.
But then on the other hand, you see things like developing a business plan for a model school and coaching entrepreneurs to help them secure microloans.
Yeah, that's different.
It's almost like they're applying these same skills, but with this focus on empowering others.
So we're seeing this theme of empowerment, but in these totally different contexts.
Mm-hmm.
But what I don't get is how does someone go from aerospace manufacturing, which is like so precise, to, well, let's be honest, to the world of people and their dreams, which can be kind of chaotic.
Well, that's where the chronology really becomes super revealing. So if we look at the professional gigs section,
Okay.
the early roles, they're all about technical mastery.
Okay.
You've got aerospace manufacturing, engineering support, but then there's this shift.
Oh, interesting.
And we see event management and for like huge trade shows. And then there's that business plan for a school. It's like they took those, system thinking skills from engineering and they said, okay, I'm going to apply this to something more complex.
Human systems.
Exactly.
Okay, that is fascinating.
Yeah.
It's like they're learning how to facilitate, but on a larger and larger scale, from the physical world of manufacturing to the social world of these big events.
Yeah.
And then finally, to the very personal world of people's dreams. But there's this one piece of the resume that I keep going back to, and it says, Be the Dream LLC. And this entry, it spans decades. So my question is, what kind of dream is going to sustain that level of commitment over such a long period of time?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think to answer it, we need to go beyond the resume.
Okay.
Because ultimately the resume is just a structured presentation of the facts. But I think this video transcript from that public access TV show could give us a peek behind the curtain and help us understand the person behind all of these accomplishments.
You're right. It's time to fire up the time machine. Back to 1990.
So this public access show, One World, it's more than just a funny look back in time. This might be the missing link.
Okay.
Between those early technical roles and that whole being the dream thing that we keep seeing.
Okay. You've got my attention. Paint me a picture. What kind of show are we talking about here?
Imagine this. Grainy footage. The music's like, that synthesized kind of stuff. And then you've got this host who's super passionate,
Okay.
talking about the New Age movement and how we need more balance in the world, because things are changing so fast. It's 1990, so words like holistic and transformational, it's like, that's all you hear. But the interesting thing is how they connect these big ideas to actually doing something, taking action.
So it's not just people sitting around talking about philosophy.
No, definitely not. There's this one quote. They say, actions speak a lot louder than words. We have to be willing to change.
Right.
And when you think about it, that's kind of, that foreshadows their own career.
Yeah.
They didn't just talk about change. They actually did it. Went from one field to another, always looking for new ways to make a difference.
It's like they took that idea, that message to heart, not just as a theory, but as like a, I don't know, like a model for how to live their life. Yeah. Anything else from the transcript that jumps out at you?
There is this one story they tell about a really powerful experience they had in college, something that gave them a reason for being.
Okay.
Now, they don't really get into the details about what actually happened, but you can tell this experience was big. It was a turning point. And then they talk about how when they tried to explain what they had learned to other people, they met a lot of resistance.
Huh.
It's almost like this experience early on made them want to dedicate their career to helping other people. You know, maybe they saw how hard it was to deal with change alone, and they decided, I'm going to help other people on their journey.
That actually makes a lot of sense. Like they learned how important it is to be a facilitator the hard way, like they had to go through it themselves.
Yeah.
But there's also this thread of skepticism, you know?
Yeah.
Especially when they're talking about people using the New Age movement to make money. It's clear that authenticity is important to them. They want to help people find real meaning, you know? Real purpose, not just these quick fixes.
Right. And that skepticism, I think it's super important for understanding how they approached business and education.
Okay, how so?
They're not into just handing out the answers or telling people they're going to be successful overnight. They're all about getting people to think for themselves, come to their own conclusions, make good choices, that kind of thing.
Oh, okay. This quote I just found, I think this might be the core of this whole one world idea.
Yeah.
They say, we are one people, we are one planet. Why can't we share cultures? Why can't we share beliefs?
Wow.
It's like they're imagining this world where differences don't matter anymore, where we get rid of the boundaries, you know?
Yeah, and that vision, it comes from this idea that we're all connected, that what I do affects you and what you do affects me.
Right.
And it's not just some nice thought, it's the foundation for everything they do. From, you know, putting on events where people come together to connecting entrepreneurs with the resources they need. It's all about building connections and helping people make positive change.
Okay, so we've gone from this very precise world of making parts for airplanes to this massive idea of one world.
Right.
But my question is, how does that vision actually translate into, you know, something real, something you could do? And that's where the podcast One World and a New World comes in. Right?
Yeah, exactly. The podcast seems like it's everything they've learned, all those years of experience.
Yeah.
It's a platform where they can give a voice to all kinds of people who share that vision of a more harmonious, more connected world.
Hold on a second. I'm just noticing this. The podcast is called One World in a New World.
Yeah.
It's not just like part 2 of the TV show.
Right.
It's like an updated version, you know?
Yeah. One World 2.0.
Do you think that means their focus has changed? Or maybe their approach is different?
It's possible. You know, the New World part, maybe that just means they realize the world's different now than it was back in 1990.
Right.
The problems are different. The opportunities are different. So maybe the podcast is their way of taking that one world vision and applying it to, well, to today.
Yeah. Makes you wonder exactly what kind of changes they're talking about.
Right.
Let's dig into those podcast intros and see if we can figure out what's at the heart of One World in a New World. Do you think we can find out how they're, like, leading the way, you know? Facilitating unity and progress, even though the world is changing all the time.
I think so. I'm really interested to see if the guests they've chosen tell us anything about their journey. You know, do the guests reflect that same shift we saw from like technical stuff to empowering others?
Right.
And do they, I don't know, do they have different ideas about how to make the world a better place? Do they all agree?
All right, let's enter the world of podcasts. I have a feeling this is where we'll really start to see what that dream is all about.
Yeah.
Okay, so these podcast introductions, they're really something. They're not just, hey, welcome to the show.
Yeah,
You know?
I know what you mean.
It's like they're these mini mission statements. Each one is highlighting a different part of this whole one world in a new world idea.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. It's like our subject is handpicking these guests, making sure they really fit in with what they've been doing their whole career, those values and themes, you know?
Exactly. And there's this one quote that really stood out to me. I think it captures what the whole podcast is about. It says, "The discovery of harmony between our passions and skills and the pursuit of purpose in creating a better world." And it's like they're saying, if you want to be really happy, you got to find that place where what you love to do and what you're good at come together, and you use that to make a difference.
And it's not just about feeling good about yourself, right? It's about understanding that everyone has something special to offer.
Right.
And all those unique contributions, Well, they're all needed to make the world better.
Yeah. And the guests they have on the podcast come from all different backgrounds, right? You've
Absolutely.
got people working on social issues, people trying to protect the environment, people teaching mindfulness. It's a real mix.
It is. But what connects them all, what they all have in common, is this desire to use what they're passionate about and what they're good at to, to serve something bigger than themselves.
And it seems like our subject, they've given these people a platform
Yeah.
so they can share what they know with a bigger audience.
Yeah.
People who might not have heard their stories or learned from them otherwise.
It's true. And you know what? I think it shows how much they've grown.
In what way?
Well, first they were all about mastering technical systems. Then it was facilitating human systems.
Uh-huh.
And now it's like they've created this system for giving a voice to people who are out there making real change.
Like a natural evolution, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And those 8 areas that the podcast covers, those themes, like a blueprint, a step-by-step guide to building that one world they've been talking about.
It's true.
We've got, let's see, transformational journeys, exploring consciousness, pioneering change, building sustainable communities. I mean, it's like their whole life's work all rolled into this podcast.
And by bringing all these different voices together, they're creating a space for people to talk, to learn from each other.
Right.
It's not about saying, here's the answer, do this.
Yeah.
It's more about, hey, here are some ideas, figure out what works for you, and go make a difference.
So that show on public access TV back in 1990,
Right.
it's grown into this whole, I don't know, like this network of people working together, all connected. It just goes to show you, if you have a vision, a dream, and you really put your heart into it, it can grow into something amazing.
It really can. It reminds us that we're all part of this one world.
Yeah.
And we all have the power to make it better. What kind of world do you dream of? And what are you good at? What are you passionate about? What can you bring to the table?
That's what we really want you to think about. After this deep dive, maybe it's time to dust off that resume, remember what you used to love doing, and ask yourself, how can I make a difference? How can I be part of the solution?
Yeah. And never forget, everything you do matters, even the small stuff.
Right.
Because every act of service, big or small, helps make the world a little more harmonious, a little more fulfilling for everyone.
Well, that's it for our look at this amazing story of a life dedicated to serving others and really making a difference.
Yeah.
And until next time, keep looking for those connections, those things that bring us together. Keep believing in your dreams, keep working on them, and keep making your mark on this world we all share.